Welcome to the Goalie Mindset Podcast. My name is Pete Fry, the Goalie Mindset Guy, and my purpose is to help goalies have a dominating goalie career. Pete Fry, the Goalie Mindset Guy here, excited to have on today Joe Ranger. Joe's had a powerful goalie career. We're going to share that with you, his journey, and he's also now a certified coach with us as well too, and does a great job with the young goaltenders coming up, working on their mental game. So Joe, welcome. Great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
You bet. So let's talk about your goalie career and what made you want to be a goalie early on.
I think it was definitely the equipment. I remember seeing the equipment and I just thought they were, the coolest looking athletes out there with the mask, the old school style. And I think since I'm the youngest in my family between my cousins and brother, I think I was just kind of the one that was defaulted to go in nets and take a bunch of shots. But I loved it and I continued right when I was young.
Okay, fantastic. And who's your favorite goalie growing up?
Marc-Andre Fleury was my guy. He was
How come?
probably going back to like the pads, but that was when Sidney Crosby and
Yep.
they kind of came into the league together, but like the bright yellow pads, the flare, the kind of like it looked like he was just always smiling and having fun. And just like the big time saves really drew me to him.
When did you start taking goals seriously?
I think I took goaltending seriously probably when I was in the, let's say, 8 years old, maybe 8 to 10. I realized that in the sense of seriously, where that was like became a full-time goalie. I played kind of in and out up until then, which I think genuinely helped my goaltending abilities because I was just become a better athlete. But I think that's when I started to really, think of myself as a goalie rather than just kind of like a specific hockey player. But then
Yep.
once I took, that next step was around my draft year, 15 to 16-year-old, where I realized, okay, I want to, pursue hockey with everything I have and take it to the next level.
Got it. Okay. And what was your biggest challenge in minor hockey? Your biggest adversity that you had to overcome? Did you ever get cut from a team?
Fortunately, I was never formally cut from a team until around like the junior. But honestly, the biggest adversity was my team was just not very good.
Okay.
And I know it may sound funny, but we were not a big district from Ottawa, the Ottawa Valley. It's such a big district, and sometimes we can't pool as many players as possible. But I
Yep.
think being on not a very strong team, although it kind of weighed heavy on times where I wish I knew the stuff that we talk about that we'll get into. I think it did weigh on me a little heavy, like a lot of adversity where, not coming up with a touchdown of saves.
hmm
Um, like different things like that really weighed on me heavy as a young goalie. Which I think just adds to what I'm able to hopefully guide younger goalies in situations similar to through.
Yeah. What advice would you give goalies now that actually, I'm going to hold that. We'll get into that later. But I wanted to make sure we talk about that, right? What
Mhm.
advice would you give goaltenders that do not play on such a good team? But okay. So then from there, when did you start thinking you were going to play in the OHL?
I think it all became real. My cousins had a cup of coffee in the OHL. They're about 10 years older than me. So I think growing up, I kind of saw them kind of go through it, and I was like, oh, I really want to be in the OHL one day. And then as I got older and I kind of kept making the team, playing on elite teams, getting invited to different showcases or camps. It kind of dawned on me when I was like, I remember I got my first official letter from the Peterborough Petes. And I was like, wow, like this is actually kind of like a realistic opportunity for me to achieve. And since then that kind of like sparked uh that mindset of, okay, like everything I want to do to the max of my ability because I don't want to waste this opportunity.
Yeah, big time. Okay. And so tell us then about your adjustment to the OHL.
It was very big. I went from playing Carleton Place. We had U18 system at the time instead of it's
Yep.
back to minor midget, but nonetheless, going from there again, not a very strong team. We were towards the lower end, which meant a lot of action and a lot of opportunities to showcase myself, which was great. But going into the OHL, it was just completely different routine. It was completely different. Playing 68 games is mind-boggling to think now. but just like the overall mental endurance that you need to kind of go through that, through the ups and downs. And, I found it was very challenging at first, but I feel like as I started to get my feet wet and consistently starting to play games, it felt like it was a little bit easier. But, going 3 weeks between playing games was quite challenging for me to start off as.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. And what was your rookie year in the OHL? What was the biggest adversity that you faced? What would you say?
Biggest adversity was my first couple starts were rough. They were
Okay. What
yeah, they
happened?
were.
Tell us about it.
So the first game was actually great. So I shouldn't have said the first couple. The first game, I won in Sarnia 5-2. It was an unbelievable game. I remember Owen Tippett, who now plays for the Philadelphia Flyers. He had like 4 goals and an assist. So thank you, Owen. That
Yeah.
was
Was
funny.
that
But
Dave Tippett's son? Dave Tippett's son?
no,
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 it's
I
not. Okay.
might be related. I'm not too sure
Okay.
actually.
Got it.
But so that was a great game. I was on a high. I got the next weekend. I got a start in Erie.
Mm.
And at the Erie, the game was going on. We were up 3-1 going into with like 5 minutes left in the third. And I was, it's funny to think about how my mentality was then versus how it is now. But I was like, oh, this is like not easy, but oh yeah, like this is gonna be so much fun. Like just gonna, we're winning and stuff like this. But then my concentration was just all over the place. That, a save that I always make. It was like a kind of like a weird bounce, but went to scoop it, rebound, and then didn't come up with the save. But that was made it 3-2, and then it went 3-3. And then at that point, I could not have felt smaller in that Erie arena.
Mm.
People yelling, the fans, like just I felt like such a small goalie that evidently we lost in overtime on, again, kind of like a hesitation play that I didn't feel confident enough to, trust to go make that poke check. And I kind of second guessed myself, and we lost. But then a few other games,
Oh, I
uh
want to pause you for that. I want to
yeah,
talk about that game. So if you could go back to that game based on what you've learned, based on what we teach the goaltenders now on mindset, what would you have told yourself?
I would have, as briefly as possible, told myself about the athlete mindset, because I'm sure we'll talk about more as, and I've told you so many times, like I was so bad at watching the shot clock, watching the time,
Mhm.
watching the video replay, all the fan mindset, the fans, all the fan mindset, focuses that would deplete
Yep.
my concentration. I would say, Joe, like stop, like only focus on the puck and the play and your breath. That'd be the only thing. And I feel like that monkey mind or the fan mindset wouldn't have really gotten to my brain. And I would have just been calm, cool, collected, and finish out and win that game.
Got it. Got it.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So to stay in that athlete mindset,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Forget about the shots, all that stuff.
Hmm.
Next shot, next save.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So carry on. You're saying after that.
Yeah. So just after that, I think that moment just sticks out to me so much because I vividly remember how I felt, like I said, like so small and like head down. I felt like I didn't want to like be there at that moment. Like just like such negative emotions. And then that snowballed into my next game and then a game after. And so I guess I was 1-3 at this point, and I can't remember what my stats were. I didn't really care, but they probably weren't as great as you would expect, or not expect, but you know what I mean. They were probably poor stats. And my coach pulled me in and said, "Hey, maybe you're not ready for the OHL yet," and said, he's like, I'm not too sure what your next the plans for you are coming down the line, but we need to see better, and we need to make a decision for you. And from that moment, it was a very like, oh crap moment. But instead of conceding to like that feeling of negativity and being small, I remember I just talked with my family and my goalie coach, and it kind of made me get that, confidence back, and that swagger. And then it just started with practice and snowballed, and ended up playing, I think, about 25 games that year. Played was rookie of the week one time. I got
Nice.
started to find some success.
Okay, fantastic. What was your biggest highlight in your OHL career?
My biggest highlight in my OHL career was shutting out the 67s 3 times in a row.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
not consecutive shutouts, but over the course of a season, mostly because that first shutout was at my in my hometown of Ottawa,
Yep.
and I just had a bunch of friends and family there, and all that. It was really special.
Did you treat those games different than any others?
No, not at all. If anything, you could almost say I was a little bit more, um, like not anxious. I wouldn't say anxious or nervous, but more kind of. I was more fired up for those games.
Hmm.
But relative to any other home game or anything else, I don't think I was any different. I was just much more confident in my abilities and much more joyful playing. I think
Yep.
that was kind of the biggest thing was I was just genuinely happy to be playing there.
So I know we started working together like later in your OHL career, right?
Hmm.
What were some things that we worked on that if you could have, you would have applied them right when you first started in the OHL?
I think it's my bread and butter and eureka moment has definitely been like the athlete mindset
Hmm.
because when I was in Sudbury and we first Roman Bazard, shout out Roman, gave
Yes.
me your contact and your information. I played 32 games before Christmas that year, so crazy workload and just everything, whether it was practice or a game, I just felt so mentally drained
Hmm.
and so mentally like my concentration calories were just so depleted that once we started working together and I started to apply those just kind of just harnessing my concentration calories, I
Yeah.
stopped, doing ball work in between intermissions. I stopped being so hyper focused all the time and I just started to be more relaxed and natural is when I found success. So I wish I was able to tell myself that in the beginning of my career because I
Yeah.
think I would have been able just to be way more confident and trusting my abilities um, throughout those early stages.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. And then now let's talk about the transition to college, right?
Hmm.
What was the biggest challenge as far as transitioning to college?
I would say the off ice challenges, like now when you're in the OHL or major junior, you're living and breathing hockey. And
Hmm.
then once you go into university or college, now I have a full workload of five courses.
Yep.
There's deadlines, there's projects that need to be done. So I've really found myself using my concentration knowledge in my everyday life. And like we said, like taking off our jacket when we get to the rink, leaving that
Hmm.
behind. Um, I think that from a psychological standpoint, it's been huge for me to use the concentration calories. My journaling was one of the biggest things that changed. Like the 23% rule.
Yep.
All these things I think that I have learned on the ice like really transpired into my everyday life. And then my everyday life, all those good habits transpired, and made me a better goalie.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic. And what's been your biggest highlight of your college career so far?
Ah, man, biggest highlight. I would say I've had a few, athlete of the week nominations, but I would definitely say or accolades, but I'd definitely say this past year we beat St. Mary's in the first round, and we've lost to St. Mary's my first 2 years. So
Mhm.
that was a big hill to get over. And so I think winning that series kind of took a big piano off our back. And now moving it on to next year, our goals are a national championship because we have the team to do it. And I think that we're a really close group. So I think we're right there.
Awesome. Awesome. And then what's the biggest advice you would give to the listeners right now, to young goalies or parents that are listening? What's the biggest advice that you would give to the goaltenders listening?
I definitely think maybe specifically tying into like we kind of talked about at the beginning, the goalies, the younger goalies who maybe aren't on the strongest teams. And I know that my
Mhm.
parents, it honestly weighed very heavy on them as well. I know like there was numerous times where, I would say I hate like hockey, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. And just being so, as a young kid, you get very discouraged. But my parents being just as mentally resilient as I am now as they were then, I think it's really important for goalies and parents alike to try to see the bigger picture because I have a feeling that when your goalie is in the OHL or PWHL or wherever, I don't think you're gonna go back and remember that one game 11 years ago on a snowy February where so and so like that this was so
Yeah.
challenging. I really don't think that I like to sometimes me and my teammates joke about say we live on a rock floating in space, meaning like it's not that important sometimes.
No.
So I guess to summarize is to have your goal in mind, like we talked about, having that clear image of where you want to be and who you want to be. Have that in mind, stick to that, and use every experience or hardship as an opportunity to, you know, like grow from, learn from, and use that as many tools as you can and to reach that goal.
I love it. Great advice, Joe. Great
Mm.
advice. Okay. And now you're a certified coach, like working with us, right?
Hmm.
Working with goaltenders and stuff. And what can you tell the listeners about why you think it would be important for them to do our program here, to work with you? What would you say? What would be one of the important reasons?
I think definitely, even speaking from my own personal experience, I think that a lot of goalies may find themselves in the same boat where I feel like I had all the necessary tools, but I didn't have the toolbox. I find I couldn't put it all together consistently. And that all came back to my mental game because I was always in great shape. I was very naturally talented. I was very able to naturally read the play. But I find that the biggest thing holding myself back was myself. And
Hmm.
until we started talking, which again, I can't stress it enough, I wish we did it way earlier is once we started talking, I realized the different the concentration, the mental zones, visualizing, all of these things that I thought that I knew. It was just
Yeah.
such a different perspective to dive into, and it just helped me immensely. And I think the younger that these goalies can maybe not become experts on it, but at least be like introduced and start thinking about these clear images of where they want to be, their clear goals, proper, everyday habits, visualization, all these things can only make your goalie better and more successful. So I think that's, such a key advice that I would recommend to all the goalies that I see.
Outstanding. Well, Joe, it's been great to have you on. Anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I just we've been going over the playbook. We're about halfway through the playbook part two, and it's
Yeah.
been going really, really well. And I think what's cool is as a coach filling it out myself and as a goalie who's also continually playing, it's such a rewarding experience being able to talk with goalies who are 9-year old or talking to goalies who are playing pro.
Yeah.
It's just so funny to see that we're all in the same boat, regardless of age or caliber of play. And it's just so rewarding and fun to hear that a 9-year old is going through the exact same emotional feelings as a pro NHL goalie. And it's just really cool to bounce ideas off each other. And I think that's been one of the coolest parts of the mindset training.
Big time. Well, it's awesome having you on. So, anyone listening, make sure to go to petefry.net and take a look at working with Joe or one of our certified coaches. It makes a huge impact on your game, on your goalie career, on your. And I guess one last question is, how does when you work with the goaltenders, how does that go beyond the game?
Well, yeah, it all comes back to building like a better habits for everyday life, like I talked about.
Mhm.
And it's if we can get a goalie who's five or not maybe not 5 years old, but let's say like 10 years old to start to be able to self-reflect on their everyday life and their goaltending, I think it's just going to create so much more healthy ways to handle adversity, handle success, handle hardship. I think all those things are going to snowball into creating a healthy mind for the person, let alone just the goalie.
Yeah, big time. Big time. Pete Fry, the goalie mindset guy here. This is the Goalie Mindset Podcast. Had on the great Joe Ranger today. Joe, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Look forward to seeing some people soon.
Yes, you got it. You are powerful.